Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, PS and the team. My name is Alan Mulwenge from the Parliamentary Budget Office.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, honorable members, and good morning, Minister of Water and Sanitation. My name is Godfrey Simon from Parliamentary Budget Office.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and welcome, Ministry. My name is Joseph Jeffan Mwansa from the Parliamentary Budget Office, part of the Secretariat.
Thank you. We can also allow the person who has just walked in to introduce.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members. My name is Chero Chianika. I'm Principal Accountant at the Ministry of Water Development.
Okay, thank you. And my name is Fred Jatila, a Member of Parliament for Momba constituency in Monze, also the chairperson for this committee. A couple of the laws of Zambia witness gives the immunity when appearing before a committee of parliament, such as this one. So take advantage of that provision, which we are giving the privileges, meaning that whilst we are together, whatever you say and that which you say cannot be used against you in any court of law, except to the extent that unless if you are to deliberately mislead the committee, the same provision works against you. And also just to indicate that we are live, both on Parliament Radio and TV. So the people who give us this mandate are following the proceedings. So we have your submission, which has got a summary and a detailed one. So what we'll do is we'll request you to use, and we'll give you 30 minutes if you need all of it. After that, then I'll allow the honorable members of this committee to ask questions, if at all there will be any questions, and then we'll be done. Okay, having said that, sir, you can start with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll proceed to run through the summary report, starting with the introduction. This memorandum has been prepared in response to the letter referred to PBO 3121, dated 22nd April 2025, in which the Clerk of the National Assembly requested the Ministry of Water Development and Sanitation to submit the detailed budget performance for the first quarter of 2025. The budget figures for the year 2024 have been provided to enrich the review of the performance of the ministry during the previous year. Annexes for the year 2025 have been attached as part of the details to the report. The Ministry of Water Development and Sanitation was created in September 2021 under Government Gazette Notice number 1123 of 2021, with a portfolio of functions consisting of water resource development and management and water supply and sanitation. The ministry has two statutory bodies, namely Water Resource Management Authority, commonly known as WAMA, and the National Water Supply and Sanitation National Water Supply and Sanitation Council, commonly known as NWASCO, through which the ministry regulates 11 water utility companies operating in the 10 provinces of the country. The layout of the report is as follows. 1. The 2025 approved budgetary allocation for the ministry as a percentage of the total national budget. 2. Proportion of the 2025 budget released in the first quarter of 2025. 3. Comparison of absorption capacity for the first quarter of 2024 and 2025. 4. Simplified analysis of Statement C, showing aggregate expenditure per program. 5. Implementation schedule of programs and projects in the first quarter of 2025 as outlined in the Ministry's 2025 Action Plan. And 6. Budget performance in the first quarter of 2025 compared with Objective 7. And then conclusion. Number 1, the 2025 approved budget allocation as a percentage of the total national budget. Chair, a total budget provision of 2,458,566,035 was made under the Ministry of Water Development and Sanitation for the year 2025. This represents 1.13% of the national budget as shown in the table below. I would just want to indicate that there was an error in the typo under table 1. It's supposed to read approved provision for 2025 and not 2024. So the table shows the total budget provision against the total national budget provision with a percentage. 2. Proportion of the 2025 budget release first quarter. During the period under review, the ministry received a total of 59,384,434 compared to 104,099,126 for the previous year's first quarter. This represents a 43% decrease. This is mainly attributed to the Treasury's reduced funding. Out of the 59,384,434 received, 59,133,103 was the funding from the Treasury, while 251,332 were other receivables. Of the 59,133,103, 285,000 was for personal emoluments, representing 0.5%, while 58,848,103, representing 99.5%, was for non-personal emoluments. In addition, out of the 58,848,103 released towards non-personal emoluments, 29,650,000 and 14.68 accounted for the water supply and sanitation program, representing 50.1% of the releases. 21,957,292.74 accounted for releases towards the water resource management and development program, representing 37.1%. Further, 12.8% of the 59,133,103 accounted for sub-programs under management and support services. Chair, table 2 just shows the proportion of the 2025 budgetary treasury releases for the first quarter. And then graph 1 just shows budget releases, a comparison for the first quarter 2024 and also 2025. Overall, where you see that in 2024 we received more than what we received in the first quarter of 2025. Similar, Chair, table 3 shows the amounts released by the Treasury according to sub-programs, where in the first quarter of 2024 and 2025, the table below shows that 109,793,098.04 was disbursed in 2024 as compared to 59,133,102.57 in 2025, representing 46% variance. Chair, the pie chart above shows the comparison of the overall absorption rate of the ministry between Q1 of 2024 and Q1 of 2025. The chart also shows that the absorption capacity of the ministry reduced from 83% in the first quarter of 2024 to 76% in 2025. The decrease was attributed to the slow disbursement of funds for Q1 of 2025, resulting in low expenditure during the last part of the quarter, hence the decrease in the absorption capacity. Chair, the above graph 4 shows the absorption capacity by the respective programs under the ministry during first quarter of 2024 and first quarter of 2025 respectively. The decrease in the absorption capacity for most of the programs in Q1 of 2025 is as a result of the slow disbursement of funds by the Treasury. Chair, summary of Table 7 shows the simplified analysis of Statement C. Chair, I'm on page 8. The simplified analysis of Statement C showing the aggregate expenditure per program. The table shows a comparative analysis of the authorized budgetary provision and the actual expenditure for the first quarter of 2025. The statement shows that during the first quarter of 2025, total expenditure amounted to 44,846,462.59 compared to 91,289,408 expenditure during the first quarter of 2024, with a 46,442,947.41 difference. Chair, on page 9 is a summary. It's an annex of summary of budget performance for first quarter 2025. The first program is water resource management and development, with a budget allocation of 813,538,129, out of which the releases were 21,957,292.74, while the expenditure was 17,624,533.07. So expenditure output based on the released funds, the operations, tasks and investment to be implemented under this program will ensure that the country has a reliable and sustainable supply of water for its population, industry and ecosystem. The target that was set in 2025, the ministry has set a total target contract to construct 12 dams, maintain 90 dams and rehabilitate 14 dams. Further, the ministry will coordinate, develop and implement programs on transboundary water resources in order to improve transboundary water cooperation, governance and benefit sharing. Output achieved so far through the implementation of the drought response plan, a total of 539 dams have been maintained out of the 170 dams planned. 14 dams to be rehabilitated is still under procurement. Progress for the construction of the 16 out of the 28 small dams is ongoing, with completion rates ranging between 15% and 100%. Explanation of performance against target. Implementation still ongoing. Chair, the second, supply and sanitation, with a budgetary allocation of 1,604,515,094.00, out of which the releases were 29,650,014.68. The expenditure so far is 20,402,835.36. Expected output based on the released funds. Program will increase access to water supply and sanitation services across the country. The target that was set for 2025, the ministry will construct 947 boreholes and rehabilitate 500 boreholes. Additionally, the ministry has set a target to construct 100 kilometers of water distribution networks, connect 30,000 households to the water supply network, construct 100 waterborne sanitation facilities, as well as connect 6,000 households to the sewer network. Output achieved so far. The overall progress for borehole construction is 46%, and so far 218 out of 480 have been completed and handed over to beneficiaries, while other sites' works are at various stages. Government has also so far drilled 163 boreholes under the drought response plan. The overall progress of the construction of 129 sanitation facilities is 47%, and toilets are at various levels of construction. Explanation for performance against target. Implementation is still ongoing. Chair, item number 2 is basically the budget performance according to economic classification for the first quarter of 2025. Chair, with your indulgence, I'll proceed to item number 6, implementation schedule for programs and projects in the first quarter of 2025. Summary of an implementation schedule of programs and projects in the first quarter of 2025 for the ministry, in line with the 2025 Ministerial Action Plan, has been provided in the detailed report. Budget performance in the first quarter of 2025 compared with objectives. A summary of releases compared to the approved appropriation in the first quarter of 2025 for the ministry is provided in Table 7. The performance of the budget in the first quarter of 2025 in comparison with objectives and outcome as shown by each program is indicated in Annex 1. Project physical risk in the remaining quarters of 2025. 1. Continued delays in treasury funding. Persistent delays could affect the timely implementation of ministerial planned programs, particularly water infrastructure projects with seasonal dependencies, e.g. borehole drilling and dam rehabilitation. 2. Reduced budget absorption capacity for the 2025 fiscal year. As implementation timelines shrink, there is a risk of underutilizing 2025 allocated funds, especially for capital-intensive projects such as dam construction, which require long-term implementation periods. 3, donor confidence and disbursement alignment risks. The ministry implements donor-funded projects such as the Integrated Small Towns Water Supply and Sanitation Project and Lusaka Sanitation Project that require counterpart funding from the Treasury. These projects may face delays or suspension if co-financing from the nation side does not materialize on time. Chair, in conclusion and way forward, the comparison of the budget performance of the ministry between the first quarter of 2024 and 2025 shows that in the first quarter of 2025, the ministry received 59,133,102.57 as compared to the first quarter of 2024, which received amounts amounting to 109,793,098.04, representing a decrease of 46%. To mitigate against the above identified challenges, the ministry might need to engage with the Ministry of Finance and National Planning to advocate for reinforcing of key water sector funds, especially those critical projects linked to national water security and drought resilience. In addition, cooperating partners need also be brought on board to bridge financing gaps through grant instruments or concession loans, particularly for climate resilient water infrastructure. The ministry will also need to identify and mobilize external funding from climate resilience and emergency response funds, e.g. World Bank CAT, DDO type instruments. However, access to these funds has to be enhanced by accelerating projects' readiness for grant concession funding pipelines. Chair, I submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Director of Planning, for that. Honourable members, any questions? Okay, maybe just before we start, Director of Planning, your report is somehow a bit difficult to follow. You know, as a committee, if you go to your statement C, for example, under your statement C, there are those codes, isn't it? The project program codes and the like. You have this one page, what, page 7. How is this one, page 7? That's the one, isn't it? So you have given the original budget, no supplementary. Final budget remains the same, 2.4 billion. Actual expenditure is put there, and then the variance. Now, if you for this committee to have done justice on your report, we expected you either after the final budget there, before the actual expenditure, you should have inserted a column for the releases against these codes. Is what I mean. You should have inserted a column there for this, so that we see. This committee wants to see. We have already seen what we have been given, but with this one, it's very difficult for this committee to deduce how your burning rate was against each code, which is one of our key functions. So without that information, then it becomes very difficult to follow your report. However, we are mindful that on annex number 5, under your annexes, again, what we have done is, that is after page, even for the following one, isn't it? The annexes, you have seen that one, isn't it? So I put you have highlighted your 2 key product program, which is water resource management and development, where you have a budget allocation of 813 million. You have put your releases there as 21.9 million. against that the expenditure is, which is 17.6, isn't it? Then the following one is the water supply and sanitation, but allocation 1.6 billion. Out of that, for the first quarter, you were given 29.6 million. Expenditure is 20.4. But when you add those releases, if you add those two, 29.6 and 21.9, it will give you 51.6 against your total. What was it? Is 59, isn't it? 59 million. This is a report, so you should not struggle. That's why you show me trying to punch with the calculator here. So, in a layman's language, you say there's 7.5 million, which we don't know what it is. We're just giving you a bit of, you see, because it's not tallying. What we expected, your total release was 59,133,000, isn't it? But when you add your 21,957,000 and the 29,650,000, it will give you 51.6 million against the 59. I thought maybe I needed just to highlight those. So you'll find it to be very difficult for these members to ask questions in the way your report has been done. Okay, having said that, honorable members, any questions? Honorable Smush and Honorable, so we'll take three questions: Honorable Smushi, Honorable Simunji, and Honorable Mabumba, in that order. Honorable Smush.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Director, for your presentation. It's still on Annex 5. I'm looking at the budgetary allocation for, let me use the program 1, Water Resource Management and Development. And of course, this will still apply to the other secondary program that you have indicated. You have a total budget allocation of 813 million. But then for release for quarter 1, you have 21 million. So I would like to find out, is this the way you profiled for your quarterly release of funds, or this is how the money was supposed to be, the money was sent by maybe finance against compared to what you had requested for? Because if when you look, the discrepancy is so much, unless you have a very good explanation as to why you are going to, you have 21 against 813 for quarter 1, then meaning you still have a lot of money, and I don't see how you'll be able to finish all this money by the end of the year, because you just have 3 remaining quarters. Thank you so much. And this applies to the other.
Thank you. Honorable Simunji.
Thank you, Chair. I think my colleague has touched the same question which I wanted to ask. However, from a budget for 1.6 billion, for quarter 1, we are talking about 1.8%. And your ministry, to me, most of your work is project oriented. So if in the first quarter we are only accounting for 2%, meaning we still have 98% to be dismantled in the next 7 months. So what will happen to the budget? Are we going to complete it within the 7 months which remain? And what happens at the end of the year if certain projects which you had profiled are not done? I'll give you an example. If you check your records, you find that in Nalikwanda in Western Province were given 5 boreholes in the 2023 budget. I think 2024 budget. To date, you are nowhere in Nalikwanda. So, meaning those boreholes have gotten lost. And I think this must be the reason why such projects go unaccounted for. May I have your comment?
Thank you. Honorable Mabumba.
Thank you, Chair. Director, when you look at your budget provision, especially for your key deliverables, which is under water resource management and water resource infrastructure, maybe let me just, okay, water resource management, water resource infrastructure, as well as maybe under water supply and sanitation. When I look at this budget allocation and even obviously releases, of course the monies in themselves, that's my personal view, may not be enough. On your presentation on the last page, which is 13, the last sentence here, the last paragraph, where you are proposing to tap into these Green Climate Fund, the World Bank, and I'm aware that the World Bank, the Green Climate Fund, have been very willing partners to support your ministry, but sometimes the issue has been your absorption rate of these funds sometimes has been very poor. Because I remember having been in government at one time, our colleague was dismissed because your minister was not, that time, it was still Minister of What? It was not absorbing money. So how do you then hope, given that there are these limitations in the funding, the population is increasing, people need the clean water and sanitation, but obviously the budget allocation may not be sufficient. So how do you hope to tap into this funding here, the Green Climate Fund as well as the World Bank and other partners that may be willing to supplement your budget allocation so that this a mandate that you have been given, you can be able to deliver on it? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Let's take another question from Honorable Mumba. Honorable Mumba, can you come in and introduce yourself? Honorable Mumba. Okay, maybe Director, can you respond to those? I'll give you another chance to ask his question.
Thank you, Chair. I'll also allow my colleagues where I'll need support. But for starters, I must indicate that on table 3, where we needed to insert a column, or table 7, where we needed to insert a column, a Chair, that can be done, and we can circulate an addendum for that. Then the disparity that was observed on Annex number 5, you realize, Chair, that what we indicated were the major programs that we have as a ministry. What is missing there is the management and support program, which has got a total of 7,525,000. It brings that total to 59 million that was released. However, as we are submitting the addendum, we can include that aspect of the management support, so that the amount tallies. In terms of the profiling, where we have received, I think that was in reference to water supply and sanitation, where we have received 29 million out of the 1.6 billion. Maybe I would ask my colleagues to assist, but basically, Chair, the first quarter, the ministry engages into project contracts design. So you find that the absorption rate increases once the contracts have been approved and a contractor has been engaged. The moment we engage the contractor, the absorption rate starts to significantly rise. But I'll ask my colleagues to contribute there. Thank you, Chair.
So maybe before your colleague comes to contribute, for the first quarter, from the 59 million, well, maybe that will give us an understanding as a committee. Director of Finance, you are able to help us. In terms of your profiling, how much were you supposed to receive? Well, that's what is missing, isn't it? You have just indicated that you received 59,133,000. But according to your work plan for the whole year, how much were you supposed to receive? So you can also add it to that one, and then you can respond to it, so that we know we want to see the gap.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, let me state that the profiles are way above what has been received. However, let me ask my colleague, because I'm very new in the ministry.
Okay.
But I'll ask my principal accountant just to give us the. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Through the Chair, I think I can give a percentage
instead of the actual figure so that I don't mislead the committee.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
When we profile, we want to have 90% of the budget at least released by October of each year. So in our profiles, by the time we're ending the first quarter, we should have been somewhere above 30% of the budget. So the discrepancy is real, and
Yeah, so we're at 2.4%, if I go by that from 30%.
yes, yes, Chair.
Okay, you can continue with the other question. With what you gave the colleagues to respond on the water sanitation, unless if that answers your question on about Smunji and one about Smushi. Honorable Smunji.
Yeah, for me, I would say partially it answers the question, but the thing is, are they on the ground? They are not on the ground. If maybe other province, districts in the Western province, as in Mongo and Narikwara in particular, you are not on the ground. So whatever answer they will give me on this part, to me, to not suffice.
To supplement, I think the same issue he raised, I also wanted to raise it. The issue of the boreholes that were allocated to be done. I think for me in Congo, you had the contractor actually go on site and they drill 1 or 2 boreholes, and after that, I think that the contracts were terminated. And it's been like that up to today. So people are complaining as to what is happening. Actually, I had even engaged the minister about this issue, and I was told, no, we are going to send a new contractor, but we haven't seen that new contractor. So I think the issues are real that he's talking about.
Thank you. Can I respond to Honorable Mabuma's question?
Chair, in terms of the areas of operation, particularly in Western Province, I can confirm that we have a project that is running there. That is integrated small towns, water supply and sanitation project, and it's there in selected district. Maybe I can have assistance just to clarify in which area specifically this project is running. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Chair. With regards the integrated small towns, yes, it's focusing on the urban areas of Sesheke, Senanga, Mongo and Kauma, but what the honorable members are asking here is regarding the rural part of it. So, yes, we want to acknowledge that we have had challenges on the implementation of some of the contracts. So, some contractors who are given contracts failed to complete those. And in view of that, the ministry has closed those accounts, and they intend to retender the works which were not completed. Last year was a challenging year because when we started, when the drought came on, we had to realign some of the programs. That is why last year you may observe that there was not much of new works which were procured. We are hoping that we finish those which were going on, and we only procured in those 5 provinces which are hard hit by drought. So we acknowledge the observation, and the ministry is taking corrective measures to ensure that those planned works, Sioma there, Mongo, are done. However, other programs are also still going on. For example, in Western Province, we have the Climate Change Adaptation Project, where boreholes are currently being done in districts like Kalabo, Senanga, Sesheke, and Kaoma. Then under the other project, Transforming Rural Livelihood Project, which is focusing on Western Province alone, again there, the remaining works on the projects are being retendered so that they are done. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mumba, are you able to come in now? But he hasn't moved his hand. Maybe he's...
Yeah.
Okay.
Chairperson, and good morning, Minister of Water. Mine is a concern on procurement. As you are aware, Honorable Chairperson, we have to refine the rules on procurement so that we can encourage value for money. Now, listening to the ministry talking about procurement still going on versus the poor releases of funds, I wanted to find out from the Director Planning what steps the ministry has taken so that there will be value for money, because we are coming from a drought, and this ministry has played a pivotal role to try and ensure that we have enough water resources. So my concern is on that procurement and why the ministry is still dragging its feet. Because if you want to procure something, it's part of your plan. So why should it drag? And therefore, making the people of Zambia not receive the service on time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Mulebwa.
Just an addition, Honorable Chair. I heard that there were some projects that were failed. Did I get you right? Now, most of the government contracts looks like there is some prepayment that is done or some deposit paid towards a project. Has the minister fully received the money that could have been paid fully if this was the case?
Thank you. Honorable Simushi.
Thank you, Chair. Director, you had a program that was running, I think, working hand in hand with the local authorities, and I want to speak for Skongo in particular, where community members were requested to be paying 1,500, and then a borehole would be drilled for them. Whether that money was for counterpart funding from the community or it was for maintenance, I don't know. But the question that I have is, in Skongo you have got quite a number of such where people had paid and waited to have the boreholes drilled. But up to now, those boreholes have not been drilled. So the question that I have is that program still there, or what is going to happen to the money which those communities paid? Thank you.
Thank you. Director, can you respond to those and then we'll close?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Maybe as I respond, I'll touch on what Honorable Mabomba's question was regarding the low absorption. In the meantime, we are requesting for donor financing. Chair, what is real is that we've had contractors that have failed us. And a number of projects have been stopped because of non-performance by the contractors. And this is what we are trying to mitigate as a ministry, where we are taking into consideration a number of factors before we engage a contractor. So you realize that with the help of our Ministry of Justice, we've been taking time to ensure that the contract design have got a provision to ensure that there's promotion of value for money. Because of the experience that we've had, where a number of projects you go into a contract with a contractor who at a later stage fails. Midway you find that almost half a year somebody is still at about 2% in terms of project delivery. So we've taken that into account, and we are very careful even as we are designing these projects. Then in terms of the program that is taking place in Western Province, where we are working with the Ministry of Local Government, maybe Engineer Olanda will shed more light on that one. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Yeah, sure, you can go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Chair. So, thank you for the question, Honorable. The 1,500 is called the community contribution. That is according to the National Rural Water Supply and Sanitation Program, which is a flagship program for which guides us on the supply of water and sanitation services in rural areas. So this money is supposed to be paid by a community which is expected to benefit from a borehole. If it's a piped water scheme, it is about 4,000 kwacha. Now, because rural water is a bottom-up, demand-driven approach, what happens is that when a community wants water, they do go to the local authority, the council, who will do a due diligence. They will do a desk appraisal and also field appraisal to appreciate that that water is needed and a borehole, a piped water scheme. Now, the time when the money, the 1,500 is supposed to be paid is when the local authority, either with the funding from government or on a project, are sure that the contract has been signed and now the borehole, that particular area has been allocated a borehole. However, we have noted that sometimes the local authorities would receive money in advance in anticipation that this year we may receive boreholes. So as and when they receive boreholes, they'll be able to allocate. And when the boreholes do not come because of other constraints, communities have ended up paying money but not received the borehole and nothing is being done. But originally, that 1,500 money, that 1,500 kwacha is supposed to be a capital contribution to make the communities realize that that facility is their own, a buy-in. That money is supposed to be used to maintain that particular water point as and when it develops a fault. Because when it's a small problem, the communities are able to work on it. But when it's rehabilitation stage, that is where that money, which is kept by the council, comes in handy to do the rehabilitation at no cost to the community, but at the cost to the council using that particular money. That concept is not, you will have to still sensitize as and when they should do, when they should collect that money, because it is not really fair to hold the money in anticipation, and when it doesn't happen, the boreholes don't come, the people obviously have the right to raise the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable, is that you want to ask a question?
Yes, sir. I'm just wondering if those boreholes have not been delivered, allow me to use that term, what has happened to the 1,500 that were paid?
Yeah, you can respond.
Oh, thank you, Chair. So, where funds have been collected, the 1,500, and the boreholes have not been done, the local authority still has a record of who paid, so that as and when they have the boreholes, they can be provided. Otherwise, the funds should be with the local authority and they should have a record, so that as and when the funds come, the boreholes are available through CDF, through projects, through government funding, they should be able to provide them. Because it is a requirement that that money is paid, whether it's regardless of the funding, because it is prescribed in the National Rural Water Supply and Sanitation Program. However, at times I've seen that sometimes it's not paid, which is not good enough, because those projects where communities have not put anything, they will call it, oh, this borehole is for that one. They will mention the one who provided the money, but we want them to be saying it's our own. There's our money there, we paid. That is why they even follow that money once nothing is done. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable members, we need to, do you have any?
Yeah, just a quick one. You have noticed that when you have projects like for drilling of boreholes, you get contractors from Lusaka. And those contractors, they go and fail to do the work on the ground. Meanwhile, we have got contractors that we have locally who understand the terrain, and they are able to deliver. Like for CDF, we have no issues with our contractors. But the ones that we have problems with are the ones that you bring from Lusaka. So why don't you decentralize the process?
Can you respond to that?
Oh, thank you very much. That concern, we have taken note of it, and we have, I'll give a practical example. When we noticed that some contractors from outside the project area were failing, we decided under Transforming Rural Livelihood, which is a project being done in Western Province, allowed the local authorities to procure the local contractors to do facilities like water, the toilets, the hand dug wells, the boreholes, and so on. We also received a mixed results because some of the works which are pending on that project as a result of the contractors who were procured in a decentralized manner also failing to. Maybe the solution lies in us to come up with a way to strengthen the ability of the local contractors to deliver and perhaps package our contracts in a manner which they can absorb. Because it has also been observed that when a local contractor is given just one, they'll be able to deliver. But where you find that they have two or more than two, it may be in one ministry or across government ministries and other people, they tend to fail. So it's a lesson we have learned. Yes, we can decentralize, we get mixed results, but centralizing has also got those mixed results. So it's an effort where as we decentralize, we find a way to empower the local contractors so that they are able to deliver. Otherwise, that's our future, and if you cannot help them, it becomes a problem. Thank you.
Okay, one of members, we will end here. So director planning, we will need a fresh submission of your report. Highlighting one, at least, we need to know how much we were supposed to be given from your budgeting point of view. We know not what we know what we received was 59. This committee would want to know in terms of the planning purpose, how much did you plan to receive, and then those other three areas we mentioned, and then other information we can give. And just to indicate, your ministry must be very busy, because you remember, Director, last year we had to do a supplementary budget due to the drought, and your ministry was given quite a lot of money to support the drought challenges that which our people faced. And as a result of that, we basically expect you to be very busy. But when you look at these low burning rates already from the quarter, 2.4%, 1.8%, then we have a serious concern as whether we are going to achieve the mandate that which we are tasked to achieve for our people. Our people want water. I mean, that's the key mandate we have. Whichever way you want to beat that, but at the end of it is the water. You know, during that drought period, a lot of about 990 dams, is it, were due for something like that, isn't it? Assessed and submitted by the members of parliament in terms of for rehabilitation, whichever way, whether using community engagement and the like. But you are the core people, as these other guys members have said. So I would use the term guys. These one of members, you see. I will allow them because we want to go to where it is happening. The issues of the boreholes. You proffer about 990 dams to be done. I know in my constituency we have about 13, 14, 15. We have not seen a single person. But meanwhile, the what do you call it? The challenge, I mean, in terms of the drought, now we can't compare to the way it was last year. But people are still expectant because we communicated this dam, and that dam. Is supposed to be worked by your ministry. So that's why we are saying we are supposed to be very busy. But at the bottom of it, this committee wants to see the utilization of these funds. I think that's the key message we are giving as a committee. We need to be utilizing of these funds for the benefit of our people out there. Resolve the procurement issues that which you are. Because honestly speaking, we cannot be running up and down all the time pointing to the issues, challenges of procurement. So you have a lot of work to do, Director. We are winding up with this work on Tuesday next week. So we expect your revised submission of the report before that time, so that then we can take into account the same. Okay, Kapko of the laws of Zambia in terms of the immunity that which was given to you earlier on. Director and team will end here. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much. Thank you.